Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the first seminar of KEEP in 2023, Reshaping Education with Metaverse Technology. I'm Terence, your MC today. Today's seminar is organized by KEEP of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Many of you have already attended our previous seminars that covered topics related to immersive learning. Since the reaction to those seminars was so positive, we decided to continue our deep dive into the world of virtual learning and bring you an exclusive interview with a pioneer in the educational metaverse space, Professor Marc Santugini. So this is the rundown of today's seminar. So first of all, let me introduce our speaker today. Professor Marc Santugini is an assistant professor of the Department of Economics at the University of Virginia. He's one of the first professors who truly explored the potential of the metaverse for education and has taught entire semesters of economics and other topics in the metaverse. He uses VR equipment and an online virtual platform called Rec Room. In today's seminar, we will interview Marc inside the Rec Room environment. We will discuss some of the questions that you may have when considering how to design immersive content for your students. And after that, Marc will bring us along for a metaverse tour and demonstrate his teaching methods. You will see the potential of using VR technology to create an immersive experience for your students and maximize their learning outcomes. Now we will invite Professor Erwin King to give us a welcome speech. Professor King is the chairman of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the Chinese University of Hong Kong and the principal investigator of KEEP. So Professor King, please.
Thank you, Terence. I hope you can hear me. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues and students, good morning. I'm Professor Erwin King from the Chinese University of Hong Kong, the chair of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, director of ELITE, and the PI of KEEP. First of all, I'd just like to say a word of appreciation that we have Professor Marc Santugini from University of Virginia with us. He is in Virginia right now, so there is a time difference. And I really appreciate that he's taking time out of his busy schedule and to share this important topic, his teaching experience in the metaverse today. The seminar topic is about reshaping education with metaverse technology. Future applications of the metaverse are beyond our imagination, from remote working, gaming, to travel, tourism. So as an educator and a computer scientist, I'm particularly concerned with how metaverse technologies can benefit our teachers and students. I hope that KEEP, as a key learning service provider and a potential partners in Hong Kong's higher education, can connect all teachers from Hong Kong and beyond to empower them with innovative technologies. This year, the KEEP project team will collaborate with the Department of Linguistics and Modern Languages to create an immersive online classroom experience for German students. We will provide students with a virtual learning environment where they can interact and exchange ideas with their peers. Meanwhile, the KEEP team is working on a slew of technical projects for the school, including course assessment with AI, credit-bearing integration, and a new course recommendation system. We look forward to extending our services from the department level to the school level and to the community level very soon. Over the past 5 months, KEEP has held 3 seminars on the metaverse and education. And we will continue to organize these related talks, events, and workshops in the future. We plan to invite different scholars and experts in the field to discuss the latest trends in education technologies for e-learning and other fields. We would also like to know more about which topic you're interested in. So please feel free to let us know by completing the post-event questionnaire. You're also welcome to contact our team for collaboration and knowledge sharing. Finally, the Lunar New Year is approaching. In fact, this Sunday is our first day of the Lunar New Year. So may I wish you all and your loved one a good health, prosperity, and all the best in the year of the rabbit. Thank you.
So thank you, Professor Ken, for your welcome speech. Now, let's join my colleague, Preston and Professor Santugini inside the Metaverse for the interview.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All good? All right. Okay. Hi, everyone.
Can you guys hear me?
No.
Can you?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me.
And I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sure that I have the sound correct. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. What about you, Raven? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, very clear, very clear. I can hear both of you.
Can you turn on the speaker? Because I can't hear well. Hello?
All right. I was just fixing my audio, but all good for me.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Of course, I can hear you. No problem.
Okay, let me just sit down here. Okay, so hi, welcome everybody to
Hey.
our KEEP Metaverse interview room. We have some people in the audience here. We hope that this gives teachers and students who may have not been in the Metaverse before a little bit of an idea how it looks and how it works. And yeah, so Marc, can you give our audience a brief overview of what kind of courses you teach in the Metaverse?
Sure, of course. So I teach 2 different. Keep on grabbing this this bottle, so I'm going to put it over there. But I teach 2 different types of courses. One is an econ course, where I try to extend econ models to 3D, and that's why I want to teach them in VR. And the other course I teach is a course that is a bit more, I would say, non-traditional. I try to teach something like coding and how to create value in VR. So I teach them how to use the Maker Pen, the thing that I just got out of my bag, in order to create maybe objects, doors, elevators, lamps, and other things like that. So it's a mixture of coding and still some sort of economics, creating value in VR.
So there are many different metaverse environments. Here we're in something called the Rec Room, which is just one. Why did you choose the Rec Room?
You know, at first, I had a lot of help from people at the University of Virginia from our learning design and technology, and they suggested Rec Room, and I stayed with it because I was able to do a lot of things with it. I think one of the things that amazed me about Rec Room was that you can actually create games or create worlds. You can be an artist, not know anything about coding, and be able to create your own environment. And lately, in the last 2 years, you're able to actually code a lot and change the environments, add animations. And I haven't seen any other metaverse that can do all of this so easily. And there's still a lot of problems. Sometimes your room is going to crash and you've added too many chips and codes, right? But that's why the flexibility and the versatility.
So why teach in the metaverse in the first place? Has it changed the way that you teach or the way that your students learn?
Yeah, so it all started in 2020, you know, when we went on the lockdown, and I had this crazy idea that we were all going to go into the metaverse, right? A virtual campus, and we're going to learn everything. So I wanted to start understanding how to do it. Of course, that was probably unrealistic. We're not going to create a campus, and not all the students are going to go into the metaverse at once like that. And then it dawned upon me that the good thing about virtual reality is that you could do 3D modeling. And then the question was, is this useful for economics, for instance? And I remember that I was reading an old book in economics by Hicks from the 1930s. And he was actually trying to explain how to do a 3D graph, and then he gave up and said something like, you know what, it's too complicated, I can't do it on the paper, and not complicated because you can't solve it, it's just to show it, so we're just going to do 2D. And I thought, here we are in the 21st century, and maybe I can go ahead and do things in 3D and actually show things that I wasn't able to show before.
So would you say that it's the greatest advantage as a teaching tool is that 3D capability?
Yeah, that's one of them. I think that for me, the fact that I can actually either observe data or look at models and animate them in 3D, that's a big advantage. Another one I found is that students find the classroom a little boring in some sense, right? It's a bit dry. And I always wanted to be outside of the classroom, but it gets difficult. You can't bring your equipment. You can't bring power and so on and so forth. And that's something you can do in VR. You can teach by the river. You can add sounds of the birds, water flowing and so on, ocean waves. And I feel that this puts the students at ease and helps them to feel more comfortable as opposed to just the typical classroom.
What are some of the feedback that you get from your students? What do they like or dislike about learning in this metaverse environment?
Yeah, so you know, I get a lot of extreme feedback. Like it's either they love it or they don't really want to do it, and I think. For the ones who find it difficult is that they get dizzy. So there is still a problem. I think the equipment that we have, and you can see it with the Oculus, or even with mine, the Valve Index, it if you stay there for more than 30, 40 minutes, you're going to get tired. Sometimes I do 3 or 4 hours and I get a bit exhausted. And that's one of the problems. If you're prone to dizziness, then it's going to be difficult. The other problem that I found is that, I was trying to teach economics, but I also have to teach them how to use this maker pen. And it doesn't have to be just in Rec Room, right? If you go into a place like Gravity Sketch or Archeo for architecture or OpenBrush, you're going to have to use some sort of maker pen. And I guess in the typical classroom, I don't need to teach you how to use a paper and a pencil. You already know how to do that. But in VR, I have to teach probably everything, which is how to do things and also learn economics at the same time. And that's very challenging.
Yeah, that's a good point about the VR, because actually it doesn't require a VR headset. Many people think that it does, but I'm here interacting with you, and I'm actually just using an iPad without any VR headset or controller.
Oh, that's great.
Is there an effective way to teach in the metaverse without VR, or do you only recommend doing it if you are all fully on board with the VR equipment?
I think you could do both. In fact, it's interesting that you say that because I'm now talking to a lot of developers and I'm involved in creating games in Rec Room. So I've decided to learn more about circuitry and VR creation by collaborating with the gamers. I think you learn a lot from them. And most gamers actually are on PC. And they teach you, they have classes to teach you things about a Rec Room. There's a huge community, and they are on PC. So I think if you have a good gaming PC with a good screen, you could definitely teach things. And the one thing I'm thinking is the visual coding that I do a little bit would be maybe more efficient or better on PC. So it's totally possible. Of course, I personally prefer virtual reality, to be immersed in virtual reality. I really enjoy it, and if it's possible to acquire a headset, is valuable as well. But it's totally possible in a place like Rec Room to do it. The problem is that there are a lot of places that are only VR. And they don't allow for the PC.
Do you notice any improvements in student retention or academic performance compared with VR versus non-VR? Does the immersion help with the communication of the content?
I think for some things, yes. I'll give you an example. So we teach a lot about equilibrium in economics. And there's a quite complicated model. It's called the Cornell model that we teach, and always difficult to do it in 2D or in the classroom. But I once did it in 3D and explained it by flying around the model and explaining different things, going under it, above it. I mean, it was actually useful to go this, and I feel like they learned more from it. But the jury's still out because the classes I teach are kind of very different from the classes that matter at UVA. The prerequisite, right? I can't tell you. If the question is, could you teach a standard class in VR, and would students actually do well? And if they fail, would they be okay with it and not blame maybe the equipment or the new environment? We don't know yet. But the last thing I would say is...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So no, sorry to interrupt. The last thing I would say is that one thing I've noticed about the people who enjoy VR and enjoy being in VR and learning about VR, that has increased their enthusiasm for economics.
Yeah, what you said there actually brings me to my next question about assessment, because one of the things that I've read or you hear about the teaching in the metaverse is that assessment is difficult. How have you found, what have you learned about assessment in the virtual classroom?
Yeah, so the way I do it, and there might be other ways to do this, but the way I do it is I give them weekly homework. To have a test in VR I didn't do it. That could be very complicated, very stressful. But to give them a week to build something, and when we'll go on the tour, I actually thought about showing you a homework room that is specific to one of my best students, and to show you what she did throughout the semester. I feel that's useful. So I would say, just to be practical, the way I do it, after every lecture, I tell them, okay, you're going to have a homework. I'm going to give you the instructions in VR. I create some avatars to explain what to do so I don't have to be there. And then I give them a week to build something, like build a model, create something, maybe animate it. And if you do it in this way, then the assessment is useful. They learn. You can actually see, you can actually grade their assignment as well. And that's possible. But do something like, the one thing I saw that people do, and maybe it works, but it doesn't work for me, is like an MCQ in VR. That's just not very good, in my opinion, right? Or some sort of standard thing in VR. It's all about projects and building. I feel that's what works in VR.
What advice do you have for teachers who are interested in experimenting with virtual teaching, but they may have no experience in the metaverse? How would they get started?
Yeah. I would say, that was me 2 years ago. I had no experience. I remember the first time I actually started to put the headset on. There was some problem with the computer, and we took literally 2 hours to figure out on how to turn on the headset. It was a little embarrassing, but there was a problem with the graphic card, and eventually we figured it out. So I would say, one thing I said is don't be afraid. Just throw yourself in. If you can buy an equipment, whether it's an Oculus Quest or maybe a Valve Index or a Vive HTC, go ahead and buy it and throw yourself in different metaverses. One advice I would say is explore. There are so many worlds. Maybe Rec Room is not for you, but there's so many worlds where you can actually do things. That's my first advice. My second advice, because that's how I actually learned the trade, is at first I wasn't really teaching with other people. Like, I was not interacting with people in VR. I decided I'm just going to go in VR and I'm going to do videos of me solving problems in VR. And someone could come to me and say, well, that's not very useful or original. But the reason I did it is because I wanted to learn how to behave, interact, and how to teach in VR, how to communicate in VR. So that's my second advice, right? It's going to be hard to start right away with a class with 5 people, a 100% VR class. But what you can do is what I call hybrid mode, which is you just do videos in VR and you present them to your students. And first of all, they like it. A lot of my students love this. And it's like an intermediate step. And the third thing I would say is don't hesitate to reach out to people who've done things in VR, right? We are a growing community. Don't hesitate to reach out to gamers to be part of the community in Rec Room. There are also a lot of educators, right? They want to teach you about how to create things in VR. It's more related to games, but from that you can learn a lot of things and apply it to educational purposes.
Everything you just said there has been super helpful. I think a lot of our teachers that are in attendance, or even the students in attendance, may not have had a lot of experience here in the metaverse, especially in the educational sense. So I think something that would be great for everyone to see is kind of a demonstration of some of your teaching methods, some of the virtual classrooms that you teach in and what you've built there. So could we follow you into one of those classrooms?
Absolutely. Let's do this. So let me do this. So let's get out of here. I guess we're going to do invites. So I'm going to fist bump everybody so that we can all go together. All right. All right. And then we're going to fist bump. Larry, if you would like to do it. That's right. Party join. And then let's fist bump. if you're interested.
Maybe we go for Rowan.
Oh, we're good? All right. Do we have everybody? Oh,
Yeah, I think we can.
I think there's one person, Terrence, is missing, right? So, well, I'll just go
going
here.
to host on the Zoom.
Okay, so let's go. If
Just
you guys are okay with it,
Mark,
so
maybe we have to take a photo first.
okay,
Oh,
very good.
yeah, let's try to take a selfie here.
I'll go here.
Mm-hmm. We found a spot.
Maybe outside of the seats, because these are. We could go on the stage, no? Or
Maybe we just stand here.
I would say it would. Yeah.
Can we get an air view?
Are we all in?
Hold on. Yeah. Hold on.
Okay, thank you, Raven. Why don't we head to the room now?
Okay, let's go. So let me go to the room. So let's go to what I would call the lobby. All right. So I'll walk you through a few of the things. So let's go to the clubhouse. I'll save in. That's our lobby for one of the class. I'm not sure if we're waiting for someone else. Oh, yes, 2 people are coming in. All right, so this is the lobby, if you want, the clubhouse. And we start every class here. And if you get a little closer, you can see that the way I've organized the classroom, if you want, is for every week we teach, we have homework, maybe a homework solution, depending on what I can do, classroom. And I guess, Preston, one thing I forgot to say, one thing that's very useful here when we think about changing the way you teach, right? Preview is very important, where basically I explain to everyone, I do a video. I also have a room where you can train, and this is a room where they can go and train before the class. More than anything else, reading and training is preparing before class is very important. So that's where we go. And actually, we're going to go to this first room. So I wrote the list. Yeah, week 3 classroom. So I feel because this is a public room, we can go this way. If we can't, you guys can go through week 3 classroom. If we can't, I'll just invite everybody. But you can just go through this door. Let's see if this is possible. Once one person, a part of a group goes in, everyone goes in. So that's good. Okay, so teaching method is like what I said. One important thing in VR is that they have to work. They have to build things on their own, but they also want to be part of a group. So we've created these platforms where 2 people per platform work on a project, and this one was about some sort of, if you come closer here, some sort of coding, visual coding, and animation in order to understand an important concept in economics, demand and supply, but especially trade, exchanges. So what they had to do is build the structure, which is about demand curve, and then connect the structure to some coding in order to generate some sort of changes, activities. So not sure this one works, for instance, so you can see that this moves, right? Or you can reset it, and everything is built from scratch. And it's a big thing that we do in economics is shifting curves, understanding what happens if something changes to prices and quantity. And that's what one student did. This was Ziwe. He puts his name down because afterwards I grade, right? And that's what we do. So you can see that everybody's doing the same thing, right? A little differently. And that's what we have here. So it's all about workshops, working and creating things. So that's the first room I wanted to show you. So let me go to the second room. Okay, the second room.
Students were the ones that created all of these 3D visuals that you see in this room?
That's right. I mean, this one I would say are, because it's just a start, we start with 2D and then we extend it to 3D, and I'll show you something. But yes, they create this. So I give them the plan, I tell them what to do, and they do it on their own. And if, for instance, there's a problem, what we can do is create a bubble so that a TA or me, for instance, can go and help them without disturbing anyone else. So that's quite useful. But that's the way we conduct the class. We have an objective. We have to build something, and they get an hour to build it. And I just go around, I fly around to check on their on what they're doing, on their progress, and to help them. You know, sometimes they have a problem with the coding in terms of how to connect chips, and sometimes it's more about the building, right? How to create different things. So you know, you create a cube like this, so you should see the cube, right? And it's a bit of a some artistic thing, right? You want to flatten it maybe, or you want to make it a smaller cube, and so on and so forth. So I help them with that. So there's a lot of things going on, right? This maker pen is very useful, but it's also very complicated because you have a lot of actions, a lot of modes in order to create all of this. Sometimes it takes more than an hour.
Is this something that took the students like a class to build, or a week to build, or a semester?
I would say this would be a class, a week. We have to prepare them for that. So I guess the whole process involves me preparing them, telling them what to do, and that's the thing that I've noticed that I cannot do in VR. I cannot wing it. I have to prepare the whole thing. So sometimes I can, you know, in real life, I just come in and says, this is what I'm going to teach, and I kind of make it up as I go. But in VR, everything has to be prepared. Or if you're not prepared, it's not going to be as good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating.
All right, so maybe we can go to another room. So let's go to a homework room. Let me try to find it, because we have a lot of rooms, so I have to find it. All right. Where is this? This is where it takes a bit more time. I'm going through all the rooms that we have. We actually have maybe... So the other thing is you can create 50 rooms, right? Sub-rooms, they call them. And, okay, where is this one? Sorry about this. I have to find it. Oh, I got it. Okay, so we can go. So this one is a template,
Okay,
right?
Marc, for people that haven't been in in Rec Room before, is the entire environment that you see around you something that you built, or are there pre-designed environments here? Do people have to start from scratch?
Great question. They don't. It's a template. So people build rooms, and Rec Room, the team of Rec Room also builds templates that you can copy and modify. You probably on this one you cannot modify everything, but the one I showed you previously is one that we create on our own. But there are a lot of templates that you can use. One in the park, the beach, you know, where we started. That was a template. I added a few things, but you don't have to start from scratch.
Okay, yeah, this looks like, is this originally a golf course? I see a whole one.
Yes. And the reason I think this is great,
you want.
that's right. And the reason I think this is great is because that student was great, right? She's like, okay, we're doing a homework every week. So it's like a progression. So as we walk through the golf course, you will see different homework that we've done. So this one, Raven, if you want, it's an extension of what you saw in the week 3 classroom. If you press the button, then you'll see what happens. You press the button and you look at your watch. And you should look at your watch. It will be a prompt.
I got it.
It's going to ask you.
How many units? Just type anything.
Yeah, maybe like 3, not between 1 and 8, I feel.
Okay, I can see the graphs moving.
Right, this is where, you know, in terms of education, what I thought was interesting about this was you can ask students to enter their answers, and this could trigger something. So that's why I wanted them to use this sort of thing. All right, we can go further. I want to show you.
So the graph is moving according to what the
air.
student inputs?
Raven, if you want, we can go a little further
Okay.
to see a 3D. So I would say, right, when you do things in VR, the way I do it is first I start with something I could do in the classroom. Like what we just did, someone could say, well, you could do it in the classroom, it's 2D. Now, this thing right here is a 3D model of the men, right? And you could fly if you want. And this is about trying to find the equilibrium in 2 markets. And you know, if you press the button, the intersection of the red lines is actually in equilibrium, and that's absolutely something you cannot do in 2D. So I'm thinking maybe the market for good X, the market for good Y, and you know that these 2 goods are complements, and you like to understand the formation or determination of prices in 2 markets, and the student worked on that one, right? So this is an extension, right, of what we did over there, but in 3D. And there's a bit of art, there's a bit of creation, right? You have to create all of this. And there's also a bit of, and I just messed it up a little bit, sorry. But that's okay, we're not saving this. Also circuitry. All right, so let's go to the last one. Show you. This one. Okay, so this is game theory. These hyperplanes, so there's a blue one, a green one, and a red one. So that took time to build. It was built from scratch. And what you're trying to do, it's some sort of strategic interaction. And what you're trying to do is to find the equilibrium. And I'm going to go over there. And what I wanted the student to do is to build something that showed the dynamics of the interaction. So reaction functions, we call them in economics. So this sphere is just bouncing off the reaction functions in order to find the equilibrium, and that point here is the point where my behavior is consistent with everybody's behavior, and we just try to simulate it in some sense. So that's the other thing that is, I forgot, 3D, but the other thing you can do is animations, right? And be around the animation as opposed to maybe on the computer, right? Go around and check very, very closely what's going on with the animation. So it's totally possible.
Yeah, it seems
right.
there's a lot of multidisciplinary approaches that can be taken here with students learning coding, animation,
Absolutely.
math, economics.
Yes, architecture, arts, the combination of arts and math as well, right? So yes, there's a lot of things you can do here, for sure. Yeah. Do we have time for another
Are you
room?
aware of any other
Yeah.
teachers using the rec room or the metaverse for different subjects besides economics? Or I've seen some like chemistry, molecular models.
See, I don't know about that. I know for sure there are a lot of people teaching CV2, and that CV2 is based on C#. So a lot of people are teaching visual coding in Rec Room. And I would say the other thing that people are teaching in Rec Room is arts, creation, landscaping, and things like that.
Okay.
But it's true that you could also teach physics, for instance, in Rec Room. There's a way to turn your object to be physical objects. So let me try to see if I can do this. All right, and so if I change this object to, give me 2 seconds, configure, and I'm gonna make this physical, all right? Oh, I gotta make this grabbable. So a lot of things, at first when I was doing something was not working, and it would take me forever to figure out what's going on, and then now I can throw it at you and you can catch it.
Got it.
And throw it back at me. Yeah. And from this you can think about anything to do with forces, throwing objects, heavy objects. You can make this object heavier or lighter. So there's a lot of things you could do in Rec Room, or in other worlds, for sure. Maybe do we have time for another?
Mark,
maybe
I think we're going to wrap up the demonstration soon.
Okay.
Is there anything you wanted to show us before we head back for question and answers?
There was one room I thought would be interesting because it was data analysis, but I'll let you decide if you want us to go into it or not. It would take maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, why don't we join you in that room really quick?
Okay, let me get the room. All right, so I found it. Oh, and might be useful to fly, but if we can't fly, maybe what I can do is maybe can you teleport here if you cannot fly? Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna go and maybe put some stairs for you, Preston, so that you can go a bit higher. Are you able to teleport yourself?
Yeah, it looks like I can jump on these stairs.
Okay, great. Well, maybe I need to put this one a little closer to you. And this one here. All right, good. Okay, so what I want to show you here, I'm not an econometrician, but if you're thinking of data analysis, right? One thing that my students really like when I built this was think of it as y is a function of x1, x2. So that's your data, whatever your data is. And let's see if this works, because there might be a syncing problem. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to regress. I'm going to do some sort of regression analysis, right? Try to explain the data with this. So you guys can stay here. I'm going to collect the data. So the first thing I created was a program to collect the data. So this thing. Do the estimation. So I did the estimation, and it's going to tell me when we're done for the estimation. And then now that I have the estimation, so linear estimation, regression, analysis, the predicted value, so there's still nothing visual that's going to happen, but I have the predicted value, and my students really liked it because usually you do this in 2D, and now we're ready to plot the predicted values. And this is where, Raven, you tell me you should see some blue.
I see the.
Okay, so there's always a problem with different devices, you know, sometimes it takes time. But what I've done here is I've plotted the predicted value given my estimate, and I'll be up there. Predicted value in order to get the, I think they call it the fitted value hyperplane that explains the data. And that is the understanding, you know, of the relationship between y and these two parameters, whatever they are. So those are the things you can do in VR that you cannot really do or appreciate, I believe, in a standard classroom. Extend the data analysis to 3D. And,
yeah, that's pretty incredible, the type of visualization that you're capable of. How long did something like this, or how complex was this to create?
It took me 2 or 3 days because I made many mistakes. So I would say for someone who knows what they're doing, but the programming took a while, but to understand the steps and to build it and understand, one of the issues is to understand, for instance, how to use glass, right? Something transparent in order to, for people to see the data, to see the predicted value, and so on and so forth. That took me a while to think about how to do it. And maybe that's an issue, is 3D is great, but it gets very busy and very hard to see all the little parts. So you have to come up with things like using glass, transparent things, in order to really make the 3D object useful and informative. Should we go back?
I'm sure our audience has a ton of questions now after seeing all those demonstrations. So why don't we go back to the Zoom room and we can hear from some of the people that have been listening.
Okay, see you guys.
Okay, see you guys there.
There are questions on the Q&A. Mark, welcome back to reality, huh?
Yes, thank you. It's a bit sweaty because when you spend time in VR, you realize that you get a little sweaty, you know, and all that. But yes,
So thank you, Mark. So let's begin our Q&A session. For those of you who want to ask Mark any questions, please leave your questions in the comment box. And then I will read out your questions later.
I think there are a few.
Yeah, there are a few questions. So let me read out the first questions. Colleagues might remember Second Life and recognize the similarities between this version of the Metaverse and Second Life. Do you think this application will succeed where Second Life did not?
I'm not so familiar with Second Life, so I would say for the moment, right? I mean, the one thing I can say is Rec Room is very successful. It's a community of 20 million people, and it's not just playing games. Or there are a lot of people that play just games, right? They just want to play games and interact. But others create a lot of things. If you get a chance to go back to Rec Room, you will see that every week
people create rooms for immersion, right? Or new games, or they do events, right? The musical chair is one that some friends of mine are doing, and all the hangout events. So I'm not sure how to measure success, but I would say that it is a lively community that does different things. There are teachers like me, there are gamers, there are creators. I'm personally involved with a group that gets hired to create rooms. So there's even trading in Rec Room. You can get paid, maybe not tons of money, but you can get paid to create things. Whether it's coding, like I was hired to create I forgot to show you this, but a audio player, a radio, so that you could listen to music inside. And that's actually, it's a good thing to create, because you learn a lot about coding and how to build this. So I think it has a chance. Yes, it's doing well.
Yeah. So the second question is, can I insert my own 3D model or object from other sources?
Well, I would say it depends. So in Rec Room right now, you cannot, but in the next year, you will be able to do it. They have created what we call Rec Studio, where you can actually just go a bit like, I'm not very familiar, like Blender. You can create your own thing, save it, and then upload it into Rec Room. But there are other places where you can do this. So Gravity Sketch is one of them, where you can actually upload or add your own 3D model inside, for sure. Neo's VR is big on this. You can add your own model. So a long time ago, is that okay if I share my screen, or just could I do that?
Yeah,
is that
you can share your screen. Yeah.
okay? So let me see if I find, because last time I tried this, but just to show you of something I did at some point. Where is this? I was ready for, oh yeah, this one. Okay, so I got it. Last time I was, and then I'm going to share my screen. So share this thing. So it has no, so a long time ago, it's not very nice, so I apologize for this, but a long time ago, I had a dream to do a photogrammetry of our department, the economics department. And I created this with a program. It's not very good, but I took a picture of it and it created this 3D model that has a lot of problems. I was able to upload it into a world, a Neo's VR. So it's totally possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I received one feedback for the seminar for Marc sharing. I love Marc enthusiasm and innovation. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So another question is, can I rotate the 3D object myself, or I need to move around to see the other faces of the object?
You can rotate the object with the Maker Pen. In fact, I'm starting to learn a little bit more about Blender, and the Maker Pen is really very similar to what you can do in Blender. So yes, you can definitely rotate the object. The one thing you can do, actually, I just did it in the homework room and I kind of destroyed something. You can also use your hand and grab the object if you make the object grabbable. So it's totally possible. There are a lot of things you can do in Rec Room, but also in other worlds. All of these, I would say, is possible. Yes.
So what is the back-end infrastructure? Is it on the cloud base for the, I think for the web?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I'm not very technical. I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe we could elaborate.
So I think he's asking whether the Rec Room is cloud-based.
Yes, I think so, but I'm not 100% sure, right? But I think it is cloud-based.
So another question is, why we need to use Metaverse technology on education?
Yeah, that's funny. It says about the, I see it with no legs, right? So, you know, I think people, I would say, I would beg to disagree. I actually think that Rec Room, as opposed to, I notice I didn't talk about Meta, right, or Facebook, and I'm not a big fan of you know, they copy maybe Rec Room sometimes, but I can only speak for Rec Room. I think Rec Room has actually done very well to have avatars that are lively, like the hands can move when you fly, your body moves a little bit. I think it makes it realistic. I would say that there are other worlds that actually get the avatars to be totally realistic with legs, but that they never look very good. You know, it's not easy to simulate things like legs, but I'm not so familiar about with Second Life, but I would say that most people like this sort of gamey or gamey avatars that you have in Rec Room. But maybe, who knows? Maybe they'll change them and make them even more realistic. You know?
Yeah. So so I received quite a few questions. So another question is, thank you for the lovely demonstration, Professor Marc. It's really awesome. But I think the Metaverse is developing rapidly, and teachers and students are still learning how to utilize it. Will the cognitive load of using VR technology in classrooms impose burdens on learning among students, like distraction?
Yeah, it's possible. You know, that's a great question. It made me think about something. So here's an answer I could give you that I've noticed is other people at UVA, they don't do a 100% VR class. They just do a class, and then they force the students to do maybe 2 or 3 sessions in VR. And I'm told that this is where it gets painful, because 2 or 3 sessions is not enough. They get thrown in and they have to learn how to operate in VR and deliver, right? Maybe solve or something or create something. And I would say that the burden is big when you don't go all in. So then the key is, and I'm not claiming I found the way to do it, because, you know, I only have 5 students. I do a very specific class in VR, but I would say you're right that if you try to do something like, you know, a hybrid class, in the sense that the students will sometimes go in VR and sometimes they'll be in the classroom, that can get difficult because the switch is big. But one thing that I think, you know, this question has just made me think about something else. One thing that you can do is another sort of hybrid. So let me share another thing that I've done, which I think is totally possible to do for anyone without imposing a burden on the students. And in fact, the students like it very much. So let me get the video out, and then I'm going to share my screen. And I feel like I can share the sound and optimize for the video. So I'm going to do it well. And this is what I did last year. So I was in VR in front of the classroom, and we projected this in on the screen. And I asked a student of mine, he's a good friend of mine, to actually videotape me. Of course, I lost, you know, you kind of lose track of where you are. But I was showing actually an important economic model there. And I feel that this could be an answer to this great question, which is we just don't want to do things to be cool, right? We want to help the students. I feel like if I had to teach 200 students, I would start with something like that, where I'm in VR and I project it. It's maybe not a full immersive experience, but it's not bad. I can actually show something new. And after this, I actually asked my students to do a homework about it. And what one student did is that she took a picture of it, cut and pasted in on her iPad, and then drew something or shifted a curve to show me the effect of something based on my 3D model in Rec Room, right? So yeah, it's good to be mindful of this distraction. And that's why we try to do different things to reduce the burden on learning.
Yes, The next question is, what a lovely journey. Thanks, Mark. I think workrooms
Thank you.
quite fit to education with subjects that with graphs and models. Just a curious question. For example, how can subjects like language teaching can apply to the Metaverse education?
Language, right? Like, so there is a, I know that there are some, maybe not in Rec Room, but there are other games where that are for learning languages. But I actually have a game because a long time ago, and I started learning Chinese. So I started learning how to write in Chinese, and because I thought it was beautiful, so I wanted to learn strokes, the order of strokes, and all that. And one of the games I purchased in VR was how to draw in Chinese, and they had pages and pages of how to draw it and help me to draw correctly and draw with the right stroke. So I'm not so familiar with things like how it could apply. I mean, I don't have a great answer for you, but I would say that there are people who have done things for languages. At least one thing that I can see is that a place like Rec Room, you can meet people. I mean, one of my collaborators is from Iceland. I've never met him in real life, but we collaborate and work on stuff together. So I would say at least these worlds, you can actually go somewhere and I guess pretty much like maybe Zoom, but you can actually meet people from other places, interact with them and practice languages. But language programs, there are some, if you like I would tell anyone else, you can feel free to reach out to me and email me after this presentation. I'm happy to provide more resources. And if you email me about this, I'll make sure to find, because I remember I saw it somewhere, maybe VR games and worlds that are specific to language learning.
So another question is, thank you, Mark. Could you tell us more about the physical equipment you are using? Can you show us your head or your headset?
Yes, absolutely. I was thinking maybe I could show you, because I have pictures of these as well. So I'll show you what it looks like. Although, I guess it'd be better than me trying to break my green wall, my screen that I have here. So let me share with you the pictures that I have, because there are two. So the one I have is this one. So I'm going to share this with you. And then I have another one. Okay, that's not this, sorry. All right, so I'm ready to share. Okay, so the first one I have, this is me in my living room, sorry, my game room. Right here. And what I have is what we call a valve index. So it has a cable. Some people don't like that, but it's I would say it's much better quality, at least very comfortable for me. I mean, people have different opinions about the Quest 2, about others, but what I have is the valve index. And give me a second, because I have to show you the controllers. These ones are my controllers. They are knuckle controllers, and they detect all my fingers. And that's the reason I love the valve index, because those are great controllers for me. And a lot of people, they think about, oh, we should do it without controllers, like just your hands. And I don't want that. These, they extend my hands, and they help me to do a lot of things I could not do with my hands. Or I tried maybe the HoloLens, where you do it with your hands. And I personally, I don't find it natural. This is natural, right? So it helps me a lot. So in terms of equipment, right, if the question is, what would I do? I would definitely encourage you to get something like the valve index, top equipment. I mean, top 2019. I read an article that criticized them because they don't have a new version of it, but I think it's really good. And the other one that I have is this one, and that's the Vive Focus 3. This one is wireless. That's me in my in the kitchen, right? And it's also good. But right now, what I use is the Index. That's and to answer, I think Preston asked this question about us being able to do it in, you know, PC versus versus VR, right? I have a good PC and I can switch back and forth. Sometimes I get very tired, so I don't go into the VR. I just do it from my PC, and I build something. Some things are easier on the PC. So that's the equipment I have. Oh, I have something else I should show you. Sorry, to show you that it's possible. I have a VR pen, Logitech, and this is helpful if you want to write stuff in VR as well.
So here is the final questions. It's a very general question. Where do you think future innovation will occur in VR teaching?
I mean, I think I think it's the combination of, or the integration of artificial intelligence in VR. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question correctly, but I think that's where we have to go. I mean, I have to say that, you know, I teach 5-10 students. If you were to tell me, you know, we have the best equipment, we have the best internet, and can you teach 100 people? I would say, no way. Like, I can't do it. I would need a lot of TAs, a lot of people, and a lot of resources. So we need some sort of holotars, artificial intelligence, right? We need some sort of way to help the teacher to be able to teach large classes in VR, or to make it natural. So as one of the things that I've been thinking about, how to expand my classes and the types of technologies I would need. And I feel like one of them would be, and I have no idea what it would look like, but the integration of artificial intelligence, or some sort of artificial intelligence in teaching or in virtual reality.
So we still have a lot of questions, but I'm sorry that we cannot address all of them.
Yeah, but I want to say, you guys, of course, it's your thing, but I'm happy to continue in talking, but as you wish, right? And the other thing I want to say is that if you have more questions and I have not answered them, feel free to email me your question. Maybe I'll be able to think more about it and give you a better answer. So everyone can definitely reach out to me, and feel free to give my email address so that we can continue the conversation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, if you are interested, you may maybe I can give the audience the contact of Marc to you, so that you can ask him more questions and learn more about the Metaverse technology.
Absolutely.
So thank you for coming to this seminar. It's great to see your enthusiastic support. So before you leave the seminar, please complete the post-event questionnaire. You may scan the QR code on the slide, or click the link on the chat box to access the questionnaire. And in addition, we have prepared a pamphlet for you called Introduction to Learning in the Metaverse. It contains information and resources about immersive learning, including things like a linked database with lots of VR tools and educational experiences for you to explore. So we will send it to you by email later. Finally, may I wish you good health in the year of rabbit. Stay tuned and goodbye. And thank you very much for Professor Marc Santugini for coming to this seminar out of his very busy teaching schedule. Thank you very much, Marc. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Raven. Thank you. Bye, Terrence. Thank you.